Well, hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing fantastically well this afternoon. It's a little bit of a different timing for myself coming on here just beyond the morning. What's going on? Are you at work? Are you at home? What is going on in your beautiful lives, everybody? Let me know in the comment section below. As I say, we're back here with the latest edition of the Rumour Mill. Some kind of surprising news yesterday, I guess, when it comes to Joe Rodon, but I think we're sort of all fully expecting it. We did a video on it yesterday on the channel, and yeah, we're going to get into that and the intricacies of that in a little bit, and who Leeds are targeting and the rumoured competition when it comes to those clubs, obviously looking at Joe Rodon, but also other targets as well. You know, who Leeds are targeting, why Leeds are targeting them, and the price, and basically their seasons as well. And it's interesting to see what individuals Leeds are looking at, and as I've just mentioned, to what price. And it gives you a bit of an indication of where Leeds are scratching when it comes to the market. So get your comments in, everybody. Let's have Carl's in the building. Shout out to you, my man. Hope you're good. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Steven says, long drive up the A1 early flyer. Have a good one, Con. At work here, pal. Shout out to you, Paul. Leon's in the building. Hey, guys and girls. Connor at One Leeds just sat down on my break. Can see all of you in the chat. Thank you so much. Greetings, One Leeds Fan Channel team. Up the whites from Dan Anna. Yes, guys. Really appreciate that. Afternoon. Yeah, it's quite nice hitting a different sort of market, as I've mentioned before, when you go live at different points. Other people come in and other people go out and all that sort of good stuff. But make sure you're slapping a like on the video, everybody. It really helps the old algorithm. And I've got my yerba mate. Don't worry, everybody. But we're not talking about Bielsa today. Okay, so let's get into the main news. Retained list. That is going to be out this afternoon, late afternoon from what we understand, reported by several sources. Yep, confirmed. So it looks like Leeds United's retained list is coming out this afternoon. I don't expect anything surprising, to be honest with you. I don't expect anything where I'm like, oh my goodness, wow, he's been released. You know, you expect the obvious ones, to be honest with you. I'm not thinking to myself it's going to be, a real surprise there. Obviously, we're going to hear about Cooper. We're going to hear presumably about Sam Byram. It's going to have like very, very England squad feels, isn't it? If there is a surprise in there, but I just don't see it happening, to be honest with you. I see the obvious ones being sort of let go and keeping around the pretty certain ones. Yeah, and that might sound obvious, everybody, but I just don't see any surprises there. So the retained list, we'll obviously do a video on it, but I'm way more interested in the types of personnel Leeds United will be looking for going forward in general when it comes to the recruitment. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Is there any players that you'd like to see leave Leeds United? Is there any that you think to yourself, yeah, we need to be letting those players go? Get your comments in the section below. It's going to be a bit of an interactive one today. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, everybody. I'm going to be getting those out as well. So let's keep. I'm seeing loads of you flying in with these comments, to be fair. But yeah, obviously Joe Rodon, the news that we figured out yesterday. Leeds United Old School says, is no Rodon confirmed? Are we not able to get Joe Rodon back? Yeah, I think we sort of are. I think we're expecting to get him back. I mean, apparently the Leeds Wigs expected it. They expected, because his deal was supposed to be essentially ran out in a month's time. And I think we all knew that with Spurs having this option in his deal, he's had 50 games for Leeds United. Can you believe that? Probably the same amount as Ben White had when he came, obviously, on loan from Brighton. So I'm not really surprised that they've activated a loan clause. It was a bit confusing last night when I was doing the reactionary news, because it was almost like in his contract they'd given him another year on top of 2025, but it was actually running out in a month's time. In a month's time, his contract was up. So Spurs have enacted that, and to get it to 2025, and then they'll get more value for him. They're expecting him to leave, but yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what Leeds do now. I don't think it's going to change. I think Leeds are still going to have to stump up around 12 to 15 million quid, but it naturally just makes you think a little bit. 12 to 15 million quid. Is it worth it for Joe Rodon? That's the rumoured price anyway. That's the rumoured price going around on the sphere at the minute. Is it worth it? Is he good enough for that sort of valuation, or would you be looking elsewhere? I guess the thing with Rodon is it's the consistency. It's the fact that he knows the club. It's the fact that he's left his mark already. It's the fact that he knows the Championship. I think we all know that we need to be looking elsewhere for centre-backs as well, because Cresswell and Cooper are going to be moving on. Ampadu, we don't want any of that scenario where he's going to be playing at the back again. So I think it's pretty obvious right now that Joe Rodon is an obvious take. He's someone who you have to go back in for. And this just gives us the option, really. I think alone, there was murmurs in January that Spurs want a permanent deal for Rodon. Obviously, now with the extension of his contract to 2025, it means that if we were to bring him on a permanent, it might be a little bit of a steeper transfer deal. Do you go for him on loan again and then get him maybe in 2025 when his contract runs out? But in 2025, if he's had another really good season, listen, there's potential that he has a number of clubs after him, especially if he keeps the dependability and reliability as high as it was this season. You know, if you're dependable, it's a massive asset. If you're an asset, then the valuation is going to get higher and higher and higher. So, yeah, he's going to be a year older in a year's time. But it's just going to be fascinating to see how Leeds go about this. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Fred says loan to buy. I'd probably look at a loan with obligation to buy. Any thoughts on Sam Rodon's tweets? I don't really see it, to be honest, mate. But I think the thing is with Sam Rodon is I think he knows what he's doing. You know, this sounds awful, but you can just be a bit of an attention seeker in the space. That can happen. And some people may say, well, that's you, Connor. But no, I just try to create content as a fan. But yeah, Sam Rodon might just absolutely love the engagement. He'll have never had engagement on his Twitter like he will have had with Leeds United fans. I think he had 51,000 interactions within 30 minutes of putting up a post of Joe Rodon in a Leeds kit. So I don't take a lot from that. It's interesting how this retained list has taken so long, obviously, because I think they've had to publish that Joe Rodon is going back to Tottenham Hotspur. There's been no Instagram post. There's been no sort of confirmation from Tottenham or Leeds. Obviously, you saw the thing from Connor Roberts. You've seen multiple Instagram posts when it's like Leeds players leaving. So I think it's obvious that Rodon will be staying at Leeds United. I just don't think maybe that tweet is a fundamental indicator that he's going to be staying at Leeds. Which was, Sam Rodon essentially just posting Joe Rodon with a graphic design, running out with the ball from the back. So, yeah, no, I get it. I understand why people are adding one and one together and making two. But for me personally, I just don't see it like that. I think, Leeds are going to wrap this up, but don't take all the indicators from Twitter, everyone. If you've got a brother who's tweeting out your confirmation and essentially been in embroiled in a bit of controversy there because your brother's sort of announcing it or sort of, not announcing it as such, but essentially saying that, yeah, he's going to be sticking around. I think he'd be in big, big trouble, Sam Rodon. So I don't think that's the case. Callum says, Connor, how much you reckon Ballard would be from Sunderland? Callum, I think it's a really good shout. Really, really good shout. I'm a massive fan of Dan Ballard, another Sunderland, absolute gen who they've managed to get. Obviously, Try Hume in the back line as well. We know Jack Clark, Joe Bellingham. Sunderland have got a lot of good players. I think you give Sunderland another couple of years, another season or maybe season and a half, and they'll be right up there. They'll have built a proper squad. That's what you get from identifying young talent and then being able to sell them on if they perform at a really good level. Victor Alter. But yeah, so yeah, I like Dan Ballard. Maybe, yeah. Look. He's another reliable one. I think this is what we have to be looking at when we're looking at centre-backs. But with Dan Ballard, he's played 46 games, I think, at Sunderland. He's not just going to come to Leeds and sit on the bench. And this is the conversation me and Cage were having. You can't bring in Omobama Dele from Forest and say, right, okay, Andrew, you're going to be sat on the bench. I know you've been sat on the bench at Forest, but you're going to be sat on the bench here as well because we've got Pascal Struijk and Joe Rodon. This is why identifying talent at the back and in midfield is going to be really, really difficult. And it's actually why I think the conversation that we're going to have in just a second about a certain individual across, across Europe is going to be probably the market that Leeds are going to be in. I've mentioned the German market. It is Eric Smith, who is at St. Pauli, a centre-back, and apparently it's between Leeds and West Bromwich Albion. It just shows how narrow the talent acquisition is when it comes to identifying a player. Eric Smith, who's really heard of him? He sounds like, someone who's down at your local post office. Nobody's heard of him, really, when it comes to, maybe content creation, people online. But West Brom and Leeds United are apparently vying for his signature today. He was transferred to St. Pauli. I believe it was at the end of last year. He's Swedish. He was transferred for around about 600 grand. And that's probably the market that Leeds are going to be looking at. A cheap centre-back who is okay with rotation. The last cheap centre-back that we got from Sweden wasn't a bad acquisition in Pontus Jansson, was he? So, yeah, 6'4", St. Pauli, had a really decent season and has been looked at by, as I said, Leeds United and West Bromwich Albion. So 2 top 6 clubs in the Championship. Leeds should be able to get that acquisition done 100%. You've obviously got the links there with Daniel Farke when it comes to that German thing. Corberan is a little bit up in the air at this moment in time where he's going to be. So that's solidified partnership that Leeds United have now with Daniel Farke. Obviously, the Red Bulls are involved. They've got a massive say as well in Germany, a massive presence in Germany. Farke has got a big presence in Germany, obviously been at Borussia Dortmund too, acquiring a lot of players for Norwich from Germany in that really successful campaign as well. So someone like Eric Smith coming in, I can't profess to know everything about him and all this sort of stuff, but what I can say is, if the talent acquisition, if Jordan Miles and co have looked at someone like that, identified him, Swedish international, and thought, yeah, he'll be good as rotation, that's fine with me. I do very much trust in the process in this window, and I'm really excited for the 10th of June when it all gets going. But what I do have to say is I think that's where maybe people need to acclimatize a little bit in terms of their expectations. Me and KG were sort of doing a little bit of recruitment discussion around individuals that we think would fit in. We think that they would fit in. And it can be likely based on what happens with the squad churn. With the squad churn, these are players that can likely fit in. A Crescencio Somerville going and maybe a Raksaki coming in. Raksaki has the exact same attributes as Crescencio Somerville. In my opinion, he's just not been given a full playing field at championship level. Crystal Palace are very, very aware of how good he is, and they don't want to let him go to another club when they've potentially got Elise going, maybe a little bit of movement with Eze after the Euros as well. So they're going to hang fire with him. They have a special talent on their hands right there. But you've got to go like for like. Somerville goes someone like him coming in, especially if we're to do a deal with Palace as well. Potentially if, let's say, Elise is to go, Somerville then goes to Crystal Palace, hypothetical, a mad world. And we do the sort of Sinister and Jaden Anthony transaction where you get a player for a player. That's what I'd love to see. Raksaki's not going to come to Leeds United as a permanent signing, but maybe with a loan with an obligation to sign him would be an unbelievable deal. If you don't know who he is, check out his season at Charlton, I should say. Unbelievable talent. Now, yeah, as I say, he just needs minutes at this moment in time. Palace didn't let him go out on loan last season. They didn't feel any loans were, ready for him and in the right sense for him, which I think's, quite telling of his talent. They're very, very aware of how good he is, but he needs a move at this moment in time. And I think along with an option to buy would be a good move for Leeds. But that's what I mean. We're trying to go on realistic signings here. That is a realistic signing because we know Somerville's going to go. Willian Yonso. Do you replace Willian Yonso? I don't think you do. You've got Rutter, who I'd like to see out there as an inverted winger, which is exactly what he did at Hoffenheim. But also you've got Dan James there as well. You've got two there who can work out wide, And then you look at a number 10. You look at a Callum O'Hare. You look at a Tanaka, who maybe isn't a number 10, but is definitely an advanced state. And he has had an unbelievable season at Dusseldorf. I mentioned the other day that I've seen him against Magdeburg this season when I went over to Germany. I watched him against Holstein Kiel as well in their wasn't the playoffs, was it? I think it was either Holstein Kiel or Bochum. Can't remember who I saw him. I think they were against Bochum in the playoffs. But he just ran the show, and he's who Leeds were interested in at the beginning of the season. He's bagged goals this campaign as well, and he's been unbelievable. That is a perfect addition. And when you're looking at Gruev, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, we can't let Gruev go." Of course, we can let Gruev go. Of course, we can let Gruev go. As I've said, guys, there is Leeds Live did a survey on players who they don't, to Leeds fans, on players who they don't want to leave. Gruev had 91%, right? If we're to hypothetically get 10 million, even 8 million for Gruev, you are letting him go. You're making profit on him. But then also there's a conversation then, do we even need to replace Gruev? When you've got Ampadu in there, you've also got, Kamara, potentially Archie in there as well. Do you need to replace Gruev? Or do you get all that money that we've got from Gruev and then plow it into a right back, plow it into a centre back? That's the conversation that they'll be having right now. And they might go light in midfield to get stocked up at right back. We don't have a right back now. We don't have a right back. So this is something that the club needs to be properly looking at. It's proper surgery on this squad this year, and we all knew it would be. Hey, Connor, great news. Great content as always. Thanks, mate. Would you take Conway from Bristol City? Wouldn't mind him, mate. Wouldn't mind him whatsoever. I'm just not 100% sure how realistic that is, to be honest. Marsh doing well, Connor. Yeah, saw him get thumped last night. That was funny. Thoughts on us snagging Luongo for depth? He is no way a Premier League starter, and we could do we could do with that experience. Well, if you're to believe Mr. Farker, he was talking about Morsi, he was talking about Luongo as almost being perfect profiles. I didn't like how he did that at that point in the season, and I thought it was a ready-made excuse for Leeds potentially losing out, of which he did use that card. Listen, we had January to address experience. That's no excuse for me. But if you're looking at your Mario Vrancic's, if you're looking at your Tetes who were involved in that Norwich setup, then that's experience, right? That's experience. You go out and get experience. Then you look at experience. This window. Tanaka at Dusseldorf is experience, but he's quality as well. There's so many names that you can go out there and get now, but he has no excuse. He's got backing behind him. He's got the perfect blend. And the 49ers have said, we're not. I've told you guys before, I had a text saying HMS pissed the league. You know what I mean? So they are not mucking around this season. They're really not mucking around this season. And that is pretty much from the horse's mouth. So, yeah, we all know that this is going to be a big churned window. We all know that this is going to be a complicated one at that. But we all expect some movement and some quality movement this season. Joining live from work. A great content as always, Sujal. I've always loved the room mill. Top man. Hi, mate. Jake, ITFC. Hi, pal. Completely agree, Connor. We definitely need a right back and a centre forward. Do you think Bamford will stay? Do I think Bamford will stay? Do I think Bamford will stay? I hope he doesn't. Because I think Bamford going frees up so much when it comes to Leeds. Matteo Joseph, I think it was almost a Daniel Farker should have been sent to prison for a period of time for the lack of Matteo Joseph-ness we experienced last season. You get the hipsters telling you that Patrick Bamford runs so much and he gives more to the team than anybody else, and we look like Brazil with him in the side. But he went this season, 11 games, 3 goals. Not good enough for a starting striker. It's not good enough for his dependability and reliability to be on the arse when it comes to the percentages. But the football hipsters will tell you that he holds the ball well. I've even led into it at points. But then you look at it at the back end of the season, you look at what Patrick Bamford has given us in the past 2 to 3 years. It's not good enough, and no other club would allow this. The reason we're allowing this, in my opinion, is because he's on such a massive contract, relative level, and he's still got 2 years left. Now, that's us being absolute dimwits from the previous regime, giving him this sort of contract and that sort of wage for that sort of player, with the utmost respect. You got Matteo Joseph in there. For me, you need to be selling this kid the project. You need to be selling this kid the project, and I think he can acclimatise really, really nicely to the Championship. But at least if you're to sell Patrick Bamford, get rid of that wage structure, get a bit of money in for him as well. What you then do is you free up a little bit of license for Leeds to go and maybe even keep with Perot, keep with Matteo Joseph, but then get in a proper number 10. A proper number 10 who's going to bag goals, who's going to be an absolute disruptor, who's going to thread the ball, eye of a needle stuff, and he's going to contribute a la Emi Buendia for Norwich in the Farker Norwich season. What you've always got to bear in mind, and I mentioned this last night, Daniel Farker needs individual talent. Without Emi Buendia, we had a horrible record. Now, without Crescencio Somerville, will he have an equally horrible record? We're going to have to wait and see. But that's why Leeds need to bring those profiles in, because we know as a manager, as a coach, he's not that great. You're not going to see a variance of styles, a variance of different play, ethos, philosophy. And maybe that's not right to do so, but you're not going to see a lot of variance in how Daniel Farker sets up. So you need to have one of the best squads in the league to be able to maybe get the best out of the manager as well. So we need to be bringing in proper quality behind the number 9 structure. That has to happen. I'm still not 100% sure that Joel Pro is a number 9, even though the Norwich performance was excellent, but it's not enough over a continuum of the season when you've been playing him in the number 9 for large portions of it. I think Joseph is a number 9, but then you've got to have an actual depth for a number 9. I know it sounds daft, but is Perot that? Or do you need to go out and get another body to sustain and help and develop Matteo Joseph? You probably do. Now, we've mentioned a couple of times on here, Schmodix is probably one of those players who helps that. He gets the goals, but he's a number 10 as well. Probably quite similar to Buendia in that aspect. He's stocky build, but is he going to be looking at the Premier League? There's loads of things to consider here. But if Daniel Farker wants 2 number 10s in and behind that number 9, that might help a Joseph. But I think it would hinder a Perot. But then what happens? Do you bring Perot back into that number 10 and have an out-and-out number 9? Conversations to be had. Yeah, Kelvin, he can. And from what I've heard, Kelvin, with Eric Smith, who we're talking about today, um, St. Pauli, by the way, cool team. Um, but I'm pretty sure he can play left centre back, right back, and defensive midfield as well. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, Tanaka rumors aren't going away. We are linked with a few. Tanaka would be an unbelievable signing. Listen. I know they're kind of different players, but do you remember when there was the Tanaka rumors and then there was the Gruev rumors? Do you remember that? We did a profile on him about a year ago on the channel, and it was almost like Tanaka or Gruev, the different players. But both were profiled as central midfielders. Not a DM, and then like a sort of attacking midfielder. Tanaka's class. He's absolutely class. I literally watched him live for Dusseldorf, and he is there. He's there, metronome. He is quality, absolutely quality. So this is what I mean. If we can go to a different country, get some value for money when it comes to players as well. We look at Samu Saiz, we look at Pablo Hernandez, we look at Tanaka, look at Buendia. All these players have come from different countries for relatively cheap prices. Aside from Tanaka, if we were to bring him over, it'd probably be a relatively cheap price in comparison to a profile like his that was already over here and had have established himself. So yeah, I just think it's there's a lot of scouting to be done. I'm sure Leeds are doing that right now, but it's exciting. Grumpy C says, hit the like button, fellas. Yeah, really appreciate that, mate. I really appreciate that. Afternoon, Connor. Hope you're doing well. Jay, top man. All doing good, mate. All doing good. Yeah, the window does open next week, mate. Next week it opens. Sam says, I've been flying the flag for Tanaka for ages now. Was gutted to see when we opted for Gruev. Yeah, and maybe it's honestly, guys, you have a listen. KG was mentioning Ronnie Edwards as well, which I thought was an interesting one. I hadn't heard a lot about him. I was sort of banging the drum for Nathan Wood. I think he could 100% acclimatise to the Premier League. 100%. There's also Ashley Phillips as well. Tottenham. Can we do another deal with Tottenham? Can you get Rodon in and Ashley Phillips as a double one? Yes, please. Ashley Phillips' rotation. I think he'd be fine doing that at a top level. You've then got Strout, Ashley Phillips, and Rodon. What a trio that is. What a trio that is. Ashley Phillips, very dependable last season as well. Played a lot of games for Plymouth. Honestly, guys, he's a proper talent. So can you do that with Tottenham? Establish like a real transactional relationship there, which we've been speaking about a lot. Football clubs do look like that, do work like that as well. If they can do business with a certain club and keep those relations open and trust that club, that is 100% the thing. Establishing a bit of synergy. So yeah, Ashley Phillips would be a nice one as well on top of that for me. Keep getting your comments in, everybody. Interested to see what you say. Make sure you like the video as well and keep getting your suggestions in as well. Yeah, keep smashing a like, everybody. Would you take James Tompkins? Probably not. Mate, Rutter played off the right for Hoffenheim. He played the majority of this game for them in a front series. Very rare, but no, it's that. Maybe I've not explained it properly, Kelvin. And I appreciate you pulling me up on that. It's not the fact that he's. How I see Rutter is if he's playing off the right, he inverts so many times. He literally, for me, Jorginho Rutter, when I'm watching him, he constantly drifts out wide. And how I see him is when he's in, I see him as an inverted winger at points. I see that because he's an excellent ball carrier. He receives the ball on the touchline frequently during football games, and he get more space out there. I as a profile, when you were looking at him at Hoffenheim, he drag. I would always feel the central players out wide with him, create a lot of space for the Hoffenheim central midfielders, and then invert and invariably get a strike on goal as well. We saw the wonderful goal he scored. I can't remember if it was against Frankfurt or or someone else, the wonderful goal he scored off that when he was dribbling in and struck it off his left foot from the right. That's where I'm looking at, where I think he could play out there. Maybe I'm not being clear there. When I say he played there for Hoffenheim, I'm saying that's how he would drift out wide, get the ball, and then drift inside into that central space. That's how I saw a lot of, you see it with Willy Gnonto a lot, don't you? See it with Willy Gnonto. That's why a lot of us say you could play as a cam, because he drifts a lot into that space. That's how I see it with Rutter. Gets the ball out wide, receives it on the touchline. I feel he could go down the flank. Maybe he's not got that agility, but he's got that ball control. He's got the composure as well. He's got that glue attached to his feet as well, and both footed. So I feel like he could work on that side really, really nice, and invert as well. So you kind of at some points sort of sorting out two positions there as well. Afternoon, Connor. Love for some reason. Love the unknown for some reason. Intrigued to see what comes in if we keep the likes of Archie, Ethan, and George. Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. Harry Darling from Swansea, decent as well. Yeah, I'd still go with Nathan Woods. Connor, are you sure Rutter will stay? I hope so. I do. Yeah, I think Rutter will stay. I think listen, I'm being an absolute hypocrite here, because I'm saying, don't look at Instagram, but then look at Instagram. But he did say on his Instagram, see you next season. And I know a lot can change. But I think it would be a lot of money for Rutter. And I still think this season he's maybe been a little bit inconsistent. If we're being fair, 6 goals for him in the amount of positions he had, in the amount of attacking phases he had, it wasn't good enough. And yet, assists, amazing. But that goal structure needed to be a lot better. Nick, yeah. Dominic, shout out to you, my man. Shout out to you. But yeah, everybody. And listen, I am going to Robin Hood's Bay. If there's any Leeds fans in Robin Hood's Bay, comment on the video. Give us a shout. But I am going to Robin Hood's Bay this evening, which should be very, very nice. The retain list is out this afternoon, so I will be doing a reaction. I want your guys' thoughts as well in the comment section below. I hope you're enjoying the room, Mill. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, everybody. The Patreon winner is going to be announced in around about an hour's time. If you want to sign up for that, you can do it. Listen, even for 1 month only, then you can cancel your membership. Give it a go. Give it a go. £4 a month. All proceeds go to the channel as well. And yeah, free giveaway been announced this afternoon. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I will see you in a bit. Cheers.